I could grab the other mic and we could sing it together. Cool. Yeah, so this will happen after the offering. So he's going to play some solo, and then that'll be right after. Any questions?
Change it. All right. Here we go.
Yes, the magic of the mystery. We'll just jump right in. is wide, I can't cross over, and neither have I wings to fly. Give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I. Your love is gentle and love is kind, the sweetest flower when first it's new, but love grows cold and waxes cold and fades away like morning dew. There is a ship that sails the sea. She's loaded deep, as deep can be, but not as deep as the love I made. I know not how I'll sink or swim. The water is wide, I can't cross over, and neither have I wings to fly. Build me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I.
Good morning. Welcome to South Church. Whether you're come filled with joy or with sadness, regardless of your religious background or absence of one, whomever you love, whatever brought you here today, you are welcome. My name is Anna Howard, and I'm a member of Team of Worship Associates who have the honor of working with our minister, Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, and our Director of Lifespan Ministries, Kirsten Hunter, and the rest of our wonderful staff, some of whom you see, others who are behind the scenes, who work very hard to bring worship services to you each week. The gift of music will come to us from Susan Adams, and as you noticed, a very special guest, Shaina Schwartz. Please know that listening devices are available in the rear of the sanctuary, and usher can help you get them. We also have large print hymnals, and those are available in the rear as well. You are all invited for the coffee hour downstairs after the service, and we respectfully request that you silence your cell phone for the duration of the service. And we have some announcements, and Jen Deldea will share them, or Kirsten.
I will. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to South Church. I just have a couple things all coming in the next week, but please look in your order of service because there's a few other announcements that are worth reading as well. I want to highlight that this coming Friday, March 31st, is a Vespers service here at church for the coming spring, or that actually has a risen spring. Happy spring. And also this morning, there's a baby in the nursery. Can't even stand it. Whew. That's some serious joy. Thank you for bringing the baby, parents. Also on Saturday this coming week, so a week from yesterday, there is that rescheduled coffee house. So please come back to church Friday, Saturday, and then again on Sunday for, there is as well, in addition to our worship service, there will be a digital giving workshop. So if you've ever been a little bit confused about how to do giving on your phone and you want to learn about that, Tom Barry will be here along with Christine Sawyer, our finance director, to walk you through all kinds of things about digital giving, totally worth checking out. And lastly, the associate program. All 5 of our associate programs, as well as our shared ministry group, will be tabling, offering detailed information. So if you're thinking about being a worship associate, a pastoral associate, a learning associate, a fellowship associate, or a social justice associate, you can come down to Social Hour next week and talk directly with representatives from all those teams and learn a little bit more about it. I hope all of those things appeal to you, or at least one of them. Thank you for being here.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
If you are watching us remotely, I invite you to light your own candle as we light the chalice, as Reverend Ellen lights the chalice in the sanctuary. As she lights the chalice, we share this reading excerpted from Spilling the Light by Reverend Teresa Soto. To what have we promised ourselves? To this moment in time and place, to this community, and even tenderly interconnected this planet. We promise ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings. We promise that there is something moving between us that we cannot tame and cannot measure. The chalice is a reminder that the flame we keep inside us cannot light the way. The light must spill to shine. The thing you must be is yourself, unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone as though you are made of something hard and unforgivable. You are human. You belong right here, right now. And together, we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, and leave only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth. Now please rise and join us in reciting our mission statement that is printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Mental health. It is a vital aspect of our lives. And although we deal with daily ebbs and flows of our psyche's well-being, it can become particularly important during the times of crisis. The stress, uncertainty, and isolation that often accompany a crisis can exacerbate mental health struggles. Such crisis occurred in my life in 2008, when during his visit to the US, my father, Edward, started experiencing chest pains, which landed us in the emergency room of Boston Medical Center. Because of the language barrier, I had to be the one to tell him the news from the doctors. He has suffered a heart attack and had to be admitted to the hospital. There he was, my rock, my world, the person who took care of me, in a hospital gown with IVs hooked up to him, looking the most vulnerable I have ever seen him. I would have to translate every conversation with nurses, with doctors, every hospital form, every instruction without my voice shaking like it's shaking right now, without getting overwhelmed with worry and anxiety over his health, not to add to his burden. I also had to update my family in Moscow as they were shocked by the news as well. You see, and not to overwhelm you with my ethnic background, as an Armenian boy growing up in mostly Muslim Uzbekistan, my father never picked up smoking or drinking even after he moved to Russia at the age of 24. He was always healthy. So handing off my young daughter to a friend, I rented a hotel room near the hospital so I could spend all waking hours with him. Only at the end of that day, in that hotel room, I would allow myself a good cry. During a crisis, it can be challenging to stay grounded and manage one's mental health as a caretaker. Fortunately, I visited Kripalu, a yoga center in the Berkshires, just several months before that, and I learned of some ways to keep me centered. Mindfulness, physical exercise, and positive self-talk are a few tools that are recommended during particular stressful times. So I would practice sun salutations with affirmations right there in the ICU, across the nurse's station, in the hallway. I am strong and I'm steady. I am strong and I'm steady. I was strong and steady when I had to accompany him into the procedure room where relatives are not allowed, and watch his beating heart appear on a monitor screen after the doctors inserted a catheter into his artery. What was a routine stent procedure for the Boston cardiologists was a life-altering event for us. Last Sunday, I wrote down the phrase Kirsten read: "You have to hold both grief and gratitude," because it reminded me of that time. Although I was frightened for my dad, I was also grateful that I was the one that had the opportunity to take care of him and, in a small way, pay him back for taking care of me all those years. What appeared to be at first a desperate situation made me stronger and more resilient. My dad will be 85 this fall. I am grateful that we had an opportunity of 14 more years of calls, visits, trips, picture exchangings, political debates, even loud arguments, mostly loud on my part. But he's still the one who texts me on WhatsApp almost every day to ask me how I'm doing. I'm strong and steady, Papa. Strong and steady. Now, please rise if you are able and join me in singing hymn 188, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are."
Come, come, whoever worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Okay, it's time for a story, and I'd love to invite all kids and anybody else who would like to come sit up here with me. And any kids who brought something today, you know the secret I'm talking about, kind of keep those hidden for a minute. I actually brought my secret TV today to church. So, some of the kids in grades 1 through 4 have been learning a story in the last couple of weeks. They've made some props, and they're going to help me tell this story today. Okay, so Emery, come on up, Emery. Emery was a kid with a lovey. The lovey was a small, worn, very soft blanket that Emery's grandma had made when they were born. And they slept with it every night. Emery loved the way it was soft and it smelled good, and it was the most comforting thing in the world to snuggle with Lovey at bedtime or while watching TV. Lovey went along with Emery to preschool and even to the beginning of kindergarten and was helpful on those days when Emery missed their parents. And now Emery was in 3rd grade, and they didn't talk about Lovey with their friends. Because at this age, kids were supposed to be too old for loveys, but it was still very much a part of Emery's home life. One day, Emery got an invitation to a birthday party. Emery had been to a lot of friends' birthday parties, but this one was extra exciting because it was a sleepover party, and Emery had never slept over at a friend's house before. They were counting down the days, but as it got closer, Emery thought about Lovey. This was going to be a problem because Emery always slept with Lovey. But what would their friends think? Surely, Emery thought everyone would laugh and make fun of Emery. So, Emery talked to their trusted parent about this. The parent tried to tell them that it isn't a big deal to have a lovey, and that if their friends would make fun of them for it, then maybe they weren't being good friends. Well, this was good advice, but it didn't really feel very helpful. Emery just wanted to have fun at the party without drama, and they didn't know how to keep it fun and easy and have Lovey too. But the choices were clear. Emery could go without Lovey. They knew that would be really, really hard at bedtime. They could bring Lovey and risk their friends teasing them, or they could miss the party. After a lot of thinking and a lot of worrying, Emery decided to go to the party and pack Lovey in their overnight bag. Maybe they could keep it in there and no one would know, and they could somehow manage to sleep without taking Lovey out. So the big day came, and Emery's parent dropped them off at the party, and there were other kids at the party. They all had their overnight bags. And the kids played games, and they had some pizza. They passed the pizza around. And then they had some cake, which was behind Annabelle. Annabelle, could you pass some cake around, please? And then they put on their PJs, and they settled in to watch a movie on the fancy TV. And by this time it was dark, and it would be bedtime when the movie got done. And as the movie was playing, Emery started thinking about Lovey, who usually came out when the TV was on. And Emery thought about their parent who felt very far away. And Emery thought about how it was dark and getting kind of late, and they got a super sad and nervous feeling right in their belly. Emery needed Lovey more now than ever. So they took a deep breath, they got up, they went to their overnight bag. They unzipped it, they took out Lovey and quietly went back to the movie. Emery felt all the other kids' eyes on them when they came back and braced for the teasing. Nobody said anything, but then, one at a time, kids got up, went to their bags, and they each took something out. First, they took their head out of the bag, and then something else came out. Someone took out a polka dot stuffy. Someone else had a pink giraffe. Someone else had a little lammy with a blanket attached. Someone had a tiger. And someone else had a really cute striped-legged stuffy. They all quietly sat back down and finished watching the movie while snuggling with their lovies. And once the movie had finished, one friend said to Emery, "I didn't know that you had that blanket. Where did you get it?" And Emery told them the story about how the lovey had come into their life. And the kids each took turns telling the stories of their lovies, and they all got really sleepy listening to the stories of all these treasured items that brought so much comfort. Eventually, the kids went to bed and slept with their lovies. And when Emery woke up in the morning, they felt really proud to have slept away from home, and they felt closer to their friends. And leaning into vulnerability is often like this. When we have the courage to share our true selves with others, it can be risky. We're never sure what other people will do when we share pieces of ourselves. But often, when we do, we give other people permission to do the same. And we strengthen our relationships by being more honest about who we are, not only to each other, but with ourselves too. So now we'll go downstairs and hear the story of all these lovies.
Each week at the Offertory, we each give of what we are able to support South Church, the building, staff, congregants, and the greater community. In an effort coordinated by our social justice associates, each month we share that collection with a different nonprofit organization. During the month of March, our collection will be shared with Women Aid of Greater Portsmouth. Founded in 2005, the mission of Women Aid of Greater Portsmouth is to provide short-term financial assistance to our neighbors in need when they have nowhere else to turn. The offering will now be gratefully received.
precious day for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with the love and care. Oh, we thanks for this precious day.
As we enter into our time of communal prayer and meditation, I want to lift up the tornado in Mississippi, recognizing all those who lost their lives and all those hurt or affected. May we also remember all impacted by recent flooding in the west coast of this country, as well as the cyclone in Southern Africa, and the many other disasters, natural and human-caused, all over the world. May we hold people who are suffering in our hearts. And in this month of vulnerability, I also invite us to turn toward our personal journeys with these words by the Reverend Don Skay Cooley. And if you like, you can join me in the words of response after each line, which is, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. And we embrace who we are. Thank you. Because there have been times when shame has crushed our ability to be wholehearted. We let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we have not always had the courage to be imperfect, we embrace who we, we let go of who we ought to be, who we are, speaking of imperfections. Because we have struggled to have compassion for ourselves or others, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we have been afraid of our own vulnerability, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we are sometimes too scared to live authentically, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Because we want to be wholehearted people, confident in our worthiness and our belonging, we let go of who we ought to be and embrace who we are. Into this accepting space we have named and created, I invite each of you to honor the prayers in your heart, your joys and sorrows, with the lighting of candles to publicly acknowledge what is in the privacy of your heart. If you would like to participate, please come forward and light a candle as the music begins. And please remember, if you are going through a difficult time, we are here for you. If you need us, please fill out a card in the pew, and you can place that in one of the baskets on the candle table, or you can come find us after the service. We are here for you. I now invite you to light a candle for a joy or a sorrow that is in you today. I know that worrying works because 97% of the things I worry about don't come true. That's a slogan I saw on a t-shirt someone was wearing one summer. I liked it because worrying is one of my great skills. I have a gift for imagining problematic outcomes. I like to anticipate everything that can go wrong. If you need someone to point out a flaw in your plan, I'm your woman. But I also have a friend who doesn't understand this. When we talk and share about our lives, she'll tell me what's going on with her, and I'll tell her what's going on with me, including all the things that unnerve me, the dilemmas I'm worried about, the things I want to say that I have no idea how to say. She listens patiently, and then as we are about to get off the phone, she says to me, "Ellen, everything will be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry." She says this in very reassuring tones. Yet, somehow, I am not reassured. I don't know where you find yourself on the worry continuum. Maybe you, cool as a cucumber, can leap tall buildings without a single anxious thought. Or maybe you regularly wake in the middle of the night worried for the sake of the world or your children, or just feel anxious a lot of the time. Or maybe you're somewhere in between, one way, sometimes another way, other times. Ironically, much as I have a gift for worry, I can also flip right to the other side. I can compartmentalize and disconnect. I get stuff done, but sometimes it feels flat. I read the news, but I don't always connect. Unlike my friend who has an 8-year-old black son, she feels it. Her body will not let her do otherwise. Regardless of where each of us are on the continuum, I keep hearing that our anxiety levels as a society are high. Kids, teens, adults, therapists have their hands full these days. Some say it's the aftermath of the pandemic trauma. Some say it's because of the impact of interminable racism and inequality. Others, that it's the impact of the impossibility of the climate catastrophe. Maybe it's all three or more. But then at the same time, it's not just my friend. So many of us do this. I do it too. We say, "It's fine, everything's fine, it will be fine. Don't worry. You good? Things going well? Good. Me too." And once in a while, I get a glimpse of what is underneath that surface that helps me understand why compartmentalizing is a thing. Like in this story told by Deborah Feldman on the Moth radio program. Deborah was raised by her grandmother, who was part of the Satmar Hasidic sect, Jewish sect. Her grandmother was a Holocaust survivor who lost every living relative in the war and was herself liberated from Bergen-Belsen in 1945. The Hasidic community in which the two of them lived believed that the Holocaust was a punishment for assimilation and Zionism, and they lived with great austerity and deprivation. No secular books, no movies, no TV, no newspapers. One way to deal with the guilt of being a survivor when so many of the people they loved had lost their lives. Deborah lived with her grandmother because her parents' marriage had fallen apart. But divorce was a terrible scandal in that world. It was a stain on her family's reputation, and it affected Deborah, who was treated as an outcast by other children. But she adored her grandmother, who made her feel loved, made her feel seen, made her feel safe. When Deborah was around 10 years old, she had started sneaking out of the community to the Brooklyn Public Library. And one day, the librarian, who knew her at this point and knew she shouldn't have been there, came over to her. She didn't say anything because she knew Deborah would have been scared, but she gave her a book. It was called The Diary of Anne Frank. Deborah had never heard of her. She thought it was a novel. She started to read it, and she fell in love with Anne, because who wouldn't? She's wonderful. Anne's voice was so full of hope and purity as she commented on the injustice in the world around her and her hopes and dreams for her future. Deborah became invested in that future because it felt like being invested in her own. And then Anne went to Bergen-Belsen, and Deborah stopped because she suddenly realized this was real. I knew about Bergen-Belsen, she said. I didn't know what had happened there, but I kept reading. And I learned that there Anne witnessed the most tremendous inhumanity and suffering, and suddenly I realized that's what my grandmother had endured and witnessed, she said. And I started to cry, she said, and I cried all the way home. It wasn't regular crying. It was the kind of crying I can only describe as the crying of a child dealing with a trauma they are not equipped to process. By the time I walked into the kitchen and passed my grandmother to my room, I was bawling, she said, and I couldn't breathe. And, of course, my grandmother noticed and followed me upstairs. Mamala, what is happening? I couldn't tell the truth, so I told her someone left a copy of Anne Frank on the bus. And I said, Bobby, now I know what you went through. I know. And I don't understand how to make it okay. I don't know how to stop crying. I don't know how to keep living. Please tell me something that will make it okay, because I don't know how to live with this knowledge of what you went through. And her grandmother turned white, and she shut the door and didn't answer her, and they never talked about it again.
When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong.
In her early 20s, Deborah leaves that sect and, heartbreakingly, her grandmother behind. But she decides to travel through Europe to retrace the footsteps of her grandmother's life from birth through that harrowing journey in the camps. Deborah went there to connect with the people of that country, to connect with the history of that time, and most of all, it seems, to connect with herself, orienting herself around this haunting question. How do you live in the world knowing this happened here? In this world, our world. How do we live in the world knowing this? Especially given whatever that toxicity is that led to the Holocaust, whatever that impulse to dehumanize, objectify, scapegoat, to destroy. I think of my friend and her son. I see new laws against trans youth. I think of what we are doing to the planet. It does not look to me like those objectifying, destructive impulses are gone. How do we live in the world knowing this? Or maybe the question is, how do we live in a world where we so often act like we don't know this? And what does that dissonance do to us? Dr. Gabor Mate, a physician, a therapist, best-selling author, and also a survivor of the Holocaust, talks about the impact of unhealed trauma in our world and on us. And how the unprocessed trauma that lives on from the past amplifies whatever personal challenges we face in the present. And how lack of trauma awareness prevents healing that could be happening in schools and workplaces and families. And how trauma can be caused not just by an event, but by a culture like ours that, quote, largely denies human developmental needs, doesn't even understand them, let alone provide for them, end quote. Needs like deep connection, warmth and care, space for tears and talking. Almost no one gets enough of that growing up. For generations, survival depended on putting grief and fear away and just soldiering on. Those habits run deep. I wonder how this plays for you. I wonder what unbearable sorrow you feel ill-equipped to process. I wonder where you soldier on. And I wonder where there's room for healing, where your tears live in you now. I wonder where inside you could find new life, new depth, new truth. The tricky thing is to heal the big things we most need to heal. There might be more tears than we think we're supposed to have. We might feel more anxiety than we think we're supposed to feel. We might need more support than we think we're supposed to need. A raggedy lovey, a 12-step program, sun salutations, lots and lots of allies and friends and support. And the tricky thing is that in this country where so much weight is put on normalcy and where there's stigma if you fall outside that range, just noticing anxiety can make you more anxious. Feeling too much fear can make you more afraid. Finding your tears can feel like weakness rather than the path back to your strength. The drive to look normal can make us want to pretend everything's fine rather than do what it takes to make things better. Which is why I love Dr. Gabor's assertion that normal is actually a myth. It's entirely context-dependent, culture-dependent. We are all on a spectrum of woundedness, he says. And depression, anxiety, addiction, schizophrenia, bipolar, ADHD, and on, these are traits to one degree or another that are present in almost everybody. And I love what he says about our unadulterated human nature. We are not naturally selfish, cold, and unkind, he writes. Without the traumas caused by our culture, we would treat each other so differently. He contrasts U.S. culture with a village in Africa or India where if you happen to be schizophrenic, for example, there's acceptance. You're not excluded and ostracized, but you're welcomed. And there's room for you to act out whatever you need to act out or to express what you need to express, and the whole community might even sing with you or chant with you or hold ceremony with you and maybe find some meaning in your quote-unquote craziness. Maybe healing isn't fixing. Maybe healing is about loving and honoring and respecting and appreciating what simply is. Holding a dream of acceptance and worth, strength and beauty, all along our human spectrum.
When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong.
The Man of La Mancha was playing at the Seacoast Rep recently. A couple of you told me I should go. There's a song in it, one of you said, The Impossible Dream. You'll love it, Ellen. And while at first I thought, hey, what are you saying about the viability of my dream? On the other hand, I went to the show, which opens with actors on a stage fenced in by a sheer metal cage. The play is set in a prison. From the start, you feel the threat of separation and violence and death. The performers are dressed in gray. Things look dark and cold and depressing. And there is also this subplot, the Don Quixote story. Quixote, I couldn't help but notice, is portrayed as a little delusional, a little bit unwell. Crazy, you might say. But Quixote also dreamt he was noble and strong. And he dreamt others were too. He saw others as beautiful. And ultimately, they saw him that way too. Even against that backdrop of a broken world, there they were. Friendships formed, hearts moved, bonds were forged. At some point near the end of the production, one of the characters said this: "When life itself seems lunatic, who knows where madness lies? Perhaps to be too practical is madness. To surrender dreams, this may be madness. Too much sanity may be madness. And maddest of all, to see life as it is and not as it should be." And then Quixote sings this song with these words: "To dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe. To bear with unbearable sorrow. To run where the brave dare not go. To right the unrightable wrong. And to love pure and chaste from afar. To try when your arms are too weary. To reach the unreachable star." At the play's conclusion, I thought, yes, isn't this what we must do to forge deeper bonds with each other, to connect with the truth of our worth, to be willing to turn toward what scares us, to feel what our hearts need to feel? Do big feelings mean we're crazy? Or does facing them make us brave? What would happen if we, as a culture, ceased seeing pain as a personal problem and let it be part of our collective path? I realized eventually what I wanted my friend to say is not that everything will be fine, but that she won't leave me if it's not. And what would there be room for if we all said that? We can deny what is hard, or we can harness ourselves to a deeper truth, tie into a network of people who'll hold us and help us, and who we hold and help. We can remind each other of our true nature, that we are strong and we are beautiful, and that this is true no matter what happens, and that this is true no matter how often we might forget it. And if we can do that, then the journey of healing and recovery of ourselves and each other and of our planet may be the best, heart-opening, life-deepening adventure we could have ever imagined. And that is a dream worth fighting for. I invite you to join me for our closing hymn, which is the one you've been hearing so far. I invite you to sing it with myself and with Shaina, who, by the way, is the performer who so beautifully played Cervantes and Don Quixote in that amazing production. So blessed to have you here. And we'll sing as our postlude, The Impossible Dream. But first, please join us in singing When the World is Sick.
I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Words from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. But take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Amen.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. Will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage